Here we are in logical reasoning drill set number 1 in the logical reasoning drills at lawhub.lsac.org. And we're going to jump ahead to the penultimate question of the 12 question set number 11. And this question is actually categorized as an assumption, but I'm going to challenge that just a little bit as we look at how to best evaluate these types of questions where we are being asked to logically complete the argument. So you can see me selecting the highlighting tool, going to the task first, and highlighting that task specifically. And you ultimately are going to really have two types of complete the argument tasks. One is going to be an inference task where you just have a bunch of facts prior to the blank that you then have to fill in with a conclusion that must be reasonably deduced from the statements of fact. Or you have what is happening in this prompt, which is what I like to call a sense strengthen. You're going to have a conclusion immediately preceding the blank that you have to fill in. And that blank is simply going to support or strengthen the conclusion that came immediately prior to the unfinished end of the argument. So we'll read the paragraph from the top. Many people have a negative reaction to modern art. Okay, that's just a fact. Some critics have hypothesized that these people simply have an unalterable innate dislike for the abstraction typical of modern art. Okay, that's an opinion, but it's the opinion of the critics, so it's not this author's opinion. So we keep moving forward because that's simply an opinion presented as a fact. But consider this analogy. Many people who have had only superficial contact with a sport such as baseball find it silly or boring. Yet, when these same people come to understand baseball's subtleties, they overcome their dislike and even become baseball enthusiasts. Thus, there's a thus term telling us that this is our conclusion. The critic's hypothesis about modern art may be wrong. And we're going to highlight what that hypothesis is for our reference as well. Whoops, went highlighted way too much there for a moment, but we've got the conclusion that some critics have hypothesized that these people who have a negative reaction to modern art simply have an unalterable innate dislike for the abstraction typical of modern art, but these critics must be or may be wrong. So now we want to predict what might be a way to relate some information to this argument based on the analogy. So we have that analogy about baseball saying that when they understand the subtleties, they can overcome dislike and become enthusiasts. So there's got to be something similar that's going to come after our ellipsis to complete this argument logically. So that's what we have in our mind as a prediction is just, well, we're going to find something that says, much like baseball, you can come to understand it and like it more once you just become more familiar with it. So starting with choice A and still with our highlight tool selected, we read, for many people, the abstraction typical of modern art does not provide a sufficient degree of subtlety to engage their interest. Well, we wanted them to be interested, not disinterested. So this is a reversal, and I'm just going to highlight that whole end because that's what is backwards. We want them to actually be interested in modern art as opposed to not engaged in modern art. Then choice B, people who have a negative reaction to modern art have not yet become sufficiently familiar with its subtleties. Well, there's exactly what we expected. We highlight that, we can select B, and we'll go more briskly through the remaining answer choices now that we've got one that matches our prediction pretty directly. Now, the dislike many people have for modern art is not innate, but is instead a result of their not wanting to be distracted from their current enthusiasms. Current enthusiasms, I have no idea what their enthusiasms are. That would require a whole lot of extra information that isn't in the paragraph. We can eliminate C for that highlight pretty directly. Then, choice D, the critics place excessive value on the abstraction found in typical examples of modern art. Well, the critics aren't the issue, it's the people who don't find modern art interesting. So we can highlight the critics as being the wrong population and eliminate choice D. And then people who dislike modern art do not know anyone who is sufficiently enthusiastic. Okay, well, it's just they don't have friends who like modern art. Well, clearly, I'm chuckling. Hopefully, that makes you chuckle a little bit as well. And you go, well, that's not it. It's not like you don't have a buddy named Bill who really likes modern art. And that's how you're going to like modern art more when we consider that analogy. And so by eliminating choice E, we know that choice B is the correct answer. And again, with these complete the argument tasks, you're either looking to strengthen the conclusion that immediately precedes it, or you're being asked to find something that must be. And because we've got this Thus, that's a clear indicator. In this case, we're looking at that since strengthened structure, and you can continue practicing similar problems on your own, applying this style of highlighting to improve your performance on these complete the argument tasks.